Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to be doing a special selection today, which is where one of you tell me exactly what I need to check out. If you want to submit your own special selection, you can find the link in the description. Today's special selection is something that I am quite excited for, especially given our recent look at Converge last week with Jane Doe. Comes from Christopher. It says Converge Blood Moon, the first single of a collaborative album from legendary hardcore band Converge alongside singer-songwriter Chelsea Wolfe, her bandmate writing partner Ben Chisholm, and Caven vocalist and guitarist Stephen Brodsky. Truly unique stuff, and I'm stoked for this. I did a little bit of research. I saw that Converge is going to keep their condensed lineup, their normal lineup as well. They'll be releasing stuff as Converge, and this expanded lineup is going to be releasing albums with Blood Moon. So this album's called Blood Moon 1. So the next time that this expanded group gets together, they'll be doing Blood Moon 2. So that's really interesting, watching one band kind of split their musical creation. Anyways, let's get into this. Let's see what's going on. We got Converge's Blood Moon.
Sands at night, last the cosmic eye, free of the chains that define our lives. It cuts through flesh and bone, lit to the glow of souls.
Okay, so there's some interesting stuff going on, almost a free time feeling. Okay, so we've been in 4/4 this whole time, I think, but they've used interesting phrasing and actually constantly changing phrasing to make it feel less like 4/4. It's just heavy and weighty. Yeah, and there's even a triplet feel of the piano with the boom, 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 boom. Yeah, it's emphasizing almost like a 6 feel against the 4 that the cymbals are just crashing down on. Yeah, and we're still in 4/4 despite them really pushing against it.
inside. On my side, thrown beside the shadows divine. All the world with glimmering light. Time's a time when all was right. And was mine.
Some really interesting sounds there, pan left.
Scream to see.
But just kind of low in the mix, really difficult to hone in on.
Is the surface instant free? Day spoken, day speaking name, to consecrate the broken, carry
Yeah, so I'll talk about it later. Man, this groove came out of nowhere. It's mostly in the bass and maybe the tom work, but all right. I think that's it. Yeah, there we go. Man, I think I'm walking away from this one a little 50-50 on it. So let's dive in and see what is what's going on? What are they doing here to create the sounds that they are? So coming into this track, I think it really helps to know what you're signing up for. I think that's an important aspect. And this song is practically from start to finish entirely textural and atmospheric. Whether it's the soft or the heavy sections, this is what Converge and Chelsea Moon are, or Chelsea Wolfe are bringing to the table. It's pure emotion told through atmosphere and texture. And I think they do a phenomenal job at this. But I think what's more important, besides what they are playing, is whoever produced this. And that's going to be my most positive takeaway here. Uh, Personally, from a biased angle, what I like to listen to in music is the production in here is phenomenal. And without it, this would have been a mess of a song. There is a lot going on here. There's a lot of instruments, a lot of layers being presented that I don't think a lesser producer would have been able to pull together into something that sounds as cohesive as this does, at least in the larger sections. So the song bounces back and forth between these two concepts. We have this quieter ambient kind of atmosphere. It's creepy, it's creeping, it's unsettling, and then that gives way for the weight, the powerhouse, the oppression, the monstrous beast kind of thing. You know, it's this divide between this unfeel or unseeable presence. You feel the weight of this thing, but you can't see it, and then the presence of this, and moving back and forth between those feelings, the dread versus the unflinching awe and terror. And they do a fantastic job with both of these. The emotions that they capture fit so well with those two vibes. I also think it's worth noting that given so many vocalists, what did let's bring this back up. What did Christopher say? So Converge has a vocalist. Get it up here. Chelsea is a vocalist, and Steven from Caven is a vocalist. So they have three vocalists on hand, which I think we saw all three of those, if I'm not mistaken. Chelsea is front center in the band. The dude without the guitar was another one, and then we had the other vocalist on guitar providing backup growls, backup harshes. I'm not sure who was who as far as the growling was, but the more ambient stuff, we tended to see more of Chelsea's cleans, while when we got to the heavier stuff, we switched off to the harshes of the two male vocalists. And I think it does a fantastic job of dividing this song and providing these two ideas unique sonic identities while retaining a lot of the chord progressions and chordal characteristics to tie it all together. It's not like we have something that is uh, poppy and ambient and then heavy and metal. The underlying notes between both of these sections are very similar. It really is just the tone and layering, the depth of music that changes when we move from the quieter one to the louder one. And that layering, I think, is extremely important. I mean, timbre, we see that all the time. Bands go from clean electric to distorted and overdrive electric, and that creates softer to heavier sections. That happens all the time in music. But it's the layering, I think, that's key here. When you listen to the quieter sections, really hone in on how many different types of instruments you hear. Listen to how many notes they're playing. Listen to how frequently they're playing. Listen to the intensity of the parts. Then we move into the heavy section. Really start listening around everywhere. Specifically, look to the right. Well, listen to the right. Listen to the left. Those are backwards for you. Listen to the left. Listen to the right. That feels weird because those are opposites for me. in the heavier sections, front and center, you're going to get your growls, you're going to get your drums, you're going to get the noisy guitar work, you're going to get those heavy chords. But when you start looking at the fringes, you're going to start noticing some other stuff. And I don't know what it is in particular because it is getting drowned out by everything else that's going on at the same time. I think one of them is it's either digital or it is a heavily distorted guitar that's just way up on the neck, hitting some really high notes, and it's getting all crunchy and distorted by the effects they have, as well as just the highness of its notes that's combined with the dissonance that these notes have, either with everything else that's being played on this line or what's being played in the rest of the band. It sounds like nails on a chalkboard amplified. And it's also one of the only moving elements. We have this heavy downbeat quarter note movement that's very lethargic and weighty and heavy. But over on the side, we have these eighth notes almost. Doo dwee doop, boo wee doop, doo dwee doop. But of course, that's not what they're playing because I'm not a singer. I'm pretty sure it's a lot more dissonant than that, but it's also run through effects and all that stuff. But listen for it. It's over there and it tinges this entire thing with an even more sinister element to it than the weight already suggests. It is phenomenal. And I think a lot of people, if even if they don't hear the specific sound, they're feeling the energy, they're feeling the emotion from it because it's bleeding into everything else that's going on. Listening to what the bass is doing, listening to what the right side guitar stuff is doing, or I didn't see anything electronic on display. I don't think so, anyways. I was only watching the video halfway, anyways, but I don't think I saw anybody on a synthesizer or a keyboard. I'm tabbing through real quick right here, and I still don't. So they're doing some modifications with some effects pedals and whatever on a guitar to get some really interesting sounds out that is helping to color just this wall of sound, pure weightiness that they're creating in the middle of the sound sphere. And I absolutely love the way this was mixed, which, I said at the beginning, this is my big takeaway here. There is three guitars, there's a bass, there's a drummer, we have three vocalists, only two at a time ever do anything. They're both growlers, so they're both in the same range, same timbre, same texture. They have obviously minor differences to the sounds they're creating, but they're both in the same general area. And there's just a lot of instrumentation to be putting in here. And fortunately for the producer, being Converge, it's very wall of sound. So the fact that things can kind of get muddled and formed into a singular auditory identity is kind of the point. So the producer can kind of lean into that. It's going to be muddy to start with just because there's so much going on. You can kind of lean into that muddiness and put it together, and that's what creates that singular, powerful, weighty, almost heartbeat to those heavy sections. But yeah, just the way that everything is equalized and mixed and placed in the sound sphere, especially when we're talking about some of these outlying sounds that aren't part of this monstrous weight, the producer deserves a lot of credit for making sure the song doesn't fall apart. I do want to talk about the drummer, right? Because there's some really interesting things going on in here. Actually, no, we're going to hold on to that thought. I don't want to talk about the drummer yet. I want to talk about meter. Because the entire first minute and a half of the song, I thought we were in 6. And then I thought we were in a variety of things. I was counting phrases as if they were eighth notes. So my first bar was a 6/8. And then my second bar was not. Sorry, it was something else. And I was like, okay, well, let's start over, Where are we now? Well, this third bar is in 6. Wait, so did I miscount the second bar? That's not possible. We're only counting to 6. I can't mess that up. Next bar comes around and it's in 8. What? Well, what's going on here, Converge? What are you doing? So that's when I started to think, okay, there's a larger idea at play here. We're not changing time signatures every single bar. There are bands that do that. This song could have been it, but I tend to, when I see a lot of changes, I tend to move up a level. I back myself off from a little bit more and I say, hey, what's the bigger picture here? And that's when I started seeing that we were actually hitting 8/8, but starting phrases early or late. We might be starting on 7, or we might be starting on 2 of the next bar. So what it leads to is that in the end, it all adds up to lining back on to 8 every 4 bars or so, which makes it, if we're in 8/8, that means we're in 4/4. And then, of course, when the full band comes in, sure enough, we are in 4/4. And I think it's fantastic how they can really push against that. Um, but it isn't, but the next section, so I think it's the third section of the song, when we hit our first rhythmically disoriented concept, where we have these short phrases, maybe like 2 or 3 hits, and then stops, and then 2 or 3 hits and then stops. And these stops have good breaks to them. We're talking about a beat, 2 beats, or something like that of silence, and it creates this sort of lurching element. But these groups of notes vary in length. You really got to listen into the drums. The cymbals are giving away the 4/4 at this point. And this was the second time I had mentioned that the band is really pushing against this notion of 4. And I think it's really interesting to hear how often this comes up. It doesn't just happen in the intro. It doesn't just happen in this rhythmically disorienting section. It happens almost everywhere in the song that they choose to omit emphasizing the downbeat of a bar. And it creates segments or it creates whole sections actually that feel like they're coming too fast or coming too slow. Nothing is ever quite as it's expected. Nothing is quite right. There's always this unsettling element to the rhythmic nature of the track. And I think that fits in very well with that unsettling element in the quieter sections that I mentioned, where it's almost like you know you're being watched and you can feel the presence of whatever, but it hasn't quite made itself known yet. The terror of it isn't quite there. It's more of a fear of a possibility rather than a fear of an actual situation, which is where the big heavy part comes in. And of course, all this ties in very well with the name Blood Moon, with the visuals that are going on. It's a very creepy music video, a lot of red lights and dark lighting and all that stuff. They did a fantastic job of capturing this feeling, this emotion, this atmosphere in every aspect. Production, music, atmosphere, emotion, visuals, time signature. You can tell that they put a lot of work into really hammering home this concept of unease uh, and weightiness, and how it all kind of wraps up into this kind of spooky concept of the blood moon. So now that I've spoken about spoken about the time signature and how that kind of ties into some of the thematic elements going on in the music, I want to talk about this drummer because I felt this was an interesting decision. The drummer bounces back and forth between two ideas: being a metronome and not being a metronome, which is kind of like, duh, Bryan, what else are you going to do as a drummer? But no, I mean, really, go back to the song, listen to it, think about it. The drummer is either showing the listener where the beat is, they're promptly displaying the 4/4 that's going on underneath the chaos, or they are completely inside the chaos and playing exactly what the guitars are doing with that disruptive element as well. And I think it's interesting that there are very few times where we hear polymetric ideas or polyrhythmic ideas being utilized to both sit within the chaos, the rhythmic chaos that the rest of the band is, and also laying down that 4/4 maybe in the hi hat. Maybe he's doing the dun 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 dun, that really disorienting rhythmic aspect on the snare and the toms or something, and then in his left foot he's on the hi-hat pedal and putting that 4/4 down for the listener to check out. We've seen that in plenty of bands where the cymbals are going to be the meter, and the lower the lower drums, your snares and your toms and your bass kicks, are going to be the more complex stuff going on. That's not on display here. There is a strict separation between these two ideas, which bleeds so much into everything else going on in this track. There is a strict separation between clean and harsh vocals. There's a strict separation between that what did I call it? The quieter section, the ambient fear versus the palpable heavy fear. There's just a strict divide between everything in the song. There is no gray point in any aspect, and I love how the drums kind of tie into that as well. It's a really interesting decision to go for, but I think, assuming it was intentional, it works well. It brings everything together, even on the most baseline situation. So yeah. Um, but I said that, I just talked about this for like 15 minutes, all the cool things that they're doing in here. And, um, but I said I didn't really enjoy it when I started this analysis. And I said it really helps to be in the mindset, to know what you're signing up for. And this being an extremely sonoristic, textural song, I'm sure is going to get a lot of people excited. There's going to be a lot of Converge fans who really, fall in love with what they're doing here. Chelsea Wolfe fans, just kind of that, what is this, post metal? I don't know what genre this is. Hardcore? Anyways, it's going to attract a ton of fans for sure. But for me, it really is missing that melodic element that I need in, especially when we start hitting harsher things like this. Even the few melodic sections that happen are extremely repetitive and based on short loops. They end up not being linear melodies, but riff-based melodies. Even the vocals are repetition based on short loops. And it really makes it difficult for me to get engaged with it. And that's my own hurdle. I'm not saying that the song's bad for it. That is my own hurdle that I need to get over eventually to fully enjoy more textural songs. It's a problem I've had since the beginning, and yeah, this is 2 years into the channel, and it's still a holdup of mine. But yeah, this song, I really want to like it. I think they're doing a lot of fantastic things here. I'm enjoying the texture that they have going, the atmosphere, the emotions they're going through and exploring. It just bounces off of me because it is, a lot of the sections are just highly repetitious, and it's about, being in that moment, being in that emotion. And my brain keeps going, yeah, this is a great emotion, but you could achieve it with more linear story writing too. And it's true, but it would be a very different song at that point. So yeah, just one of these days, I gotta rewire my brain. Maybe I just gotta keep listening to more stuff like this. It just happens over time, right? Anyways, those are my thoughts on Converge's Blood Moon. This is where you guys come in. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed this one or not. Anything that you agree with me on, anything that you disagree with me on, go ahead and let me know. All right? Above the comment section is a description box. In there is a link for Linktree. Take you to this place right here. It's got links for Patreon if you want to join that and vote on future themes. It has links for special selection if you want to get in on that, just like today, and tell me exactly what you want me to check out. You can follow me on Twitter. You can join the Discord community. You can see what I've made on Bandcamp, all sorts of stuff. It is all there. You can buy some merch too if you want some critical reaction shirts or mugs or stickers or tote bags or whatever. Above the description box, there's buttons. That's not how I usually transition into this. If you could, like, subscribe, or ring the bell. Those are the buttons to press. Anyways, that's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC, as usual. We'll be looking at our penultimate vulnerable side week, vulnerable side song, and our final special selection for the week. Because, of course, on Fridays, we do creator request as our second video rather than special selection, which is where a band gets in contact and says, hey, how about you check out our music? All right, well, until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.